is going on, guys? Hope everyone is doing well. So I am back with what I think is an unboxing video. Let me explain, because I did a version of this video already that I was not quite happy with. But we are going to be taking a look at what was inside this box right here. And already, I think some of you may be able to guess that it is film related. And I think those same people also know that if there is something that can make tapping sounds, I will definitely be exploring it. So this is the film that I've been talking about in my last few videos that contains the negatives of a trip my girlfriend and I just recently took to the Big Apple, New York City. You know, I used to remember why it was called the Big Apple, but now I forget. So we're going to keep the tapping sounds a little bit more subtle than some of the others I've featured on this channel. But this is from Indie Film Lab, which you can see. And basically, you shoot a bunch of film, you package it up and send it to them, and they develop it and send it back. So super easy on my part. And I used to develop the film myself. It's just, between everything I have going on now, I just don't really have the time. But we've also taken it upon ourselves recently to do packaging reviews, it seems. So as far as packaging, very minimal, which I do like. And it's got this cool sticker with this guy right here. I don't quite know why it's a skeleton, but I think it's really cool. So sometimes that is a reason in itself to do something. So there we go. Inside here, somehow they managed to fit 14 rolls of film, which I still don't know how. Let me just close this. What I was alluding to earlier was the rolls of film I have for you. So, let us get this light table turned on. But this is what I was talking about right here. I was trying to show the film to this camera, and like you'll see, I don't have to mime it because I have it right here. It's quite difficult to see individual frames. Like this, for example. The camera doesn't know where to focus. So literally, right after I finished that video, I was just like, why didn't I just put it on the light table? So that's what we're gonna do. And each roll comes packaged in this protective plastic. It's a little bit hard to see, but basically it just folds over like that. And light is a nice layer of protection until I can put it in the film binder that I have. So this first roll we're going to be looking at is from a picnic. And my girlfriend and I took a nice walk. We had a great meal. Just some sandwiches, kept it a little bit simple. Okay, let's take a little bit of a closer look. So, one of the things that my girlfriend loves most in the world is pickles. And it's just so random, but there's the pickle jar right there, and just like chowing down. Like, a jar of pickles will last her like conservatively less than a week. So this row of frames that you see is from our walk just at a bridge path near me, and I kind of turned some of the picnic shots into like a fashion shoot. So this one is of me, and my girlfriend was holding like the camera upside down, so it threw me for a second when I was looking through these, because I was like, oh my gosh, is the film backwards? Like, why can't I figure this out? So I'd like to also point your attention to these two frames, because while I was in the city, I saw for the first time in my life the Wienermobile drive by. So I ran outside. I was like, oh my goodness. And my film camera was the only thing I had with me, and just turned it on and was going through the street, like weaving through people, and I managed to get these two shots. So I'm very anxious to see what they look like. But it's always nice looking back on these images and being like, oh, I remember like how much fun that day was. And I always say this, but if you can get some good photos out of it, why not go ahead and do that? So this is my girlfriend very busy at work. This is me annoying her again, me annoying her a third time. I think you guys are noticing a common theme. I can be pretty annoying sometimes, but part of my charm, right? So, let us see what we have in store on the next roll. And I can go right back down. I think these should all be in the right orientation, but we shall see. Sometimes with the film being a little bit curled, it makes it slightly more difficult. But here is one of the rolls of film back from a day where we were perhaps too ambitious, taking on 3 New York City attractions in one day. So these first ones are from the Empire State Building and making our way to the observation deck. So this one is the view, and the light in the morning was just gorgeous. So I'm very, very excited to get all of these scanned in, but that is going to take so much time. The film scanner that I have is quite slow, but we got some of the good tourist photos, like the one at the observation deck with that large magnifying glass. I got plenty of just the crowds. One of my favorite types of images is what I think people leave out when they're shooting landmarks, which is the people around them. And just when you see like just how crowded it is and how many people there are, it just gives each attraction kind of a different tone, which I think is more interesting than, let's say, the Empire State Building by itself. So we got some of my girlfriend doing various poses. Usually it's me just directing behind the camera, saying something ridiculous for the expression of it, and then bam, snap the photo. So we got some of the crowd, some of the views, and a couple of me even. So it started off at the Empire State Building, then some of Radio City Music Hall as we were passing, and then actually Radio City wasn't even part of the attraction we did that day, but the Museum of Natural History. There were some on this bottom row, and the photos there, I didn't take too many just because it's kind of dark, and when you're shooting film, sometimes the film that you choose is not very sensitive to light. So usually I choose like a daylight balanced film, and let's just say it's not the best for indoor shooting. But we got some of this dinosaur skeleton, some of us on the stairs, and two of me in front of, I forget exactly what exhibit this was, but it was basically like a giant rock that had carvings in it. And what are these two frames? I think they're just from our walk around, but that's what makes shooting on film difficult sometimes, is like you see I have all these cut up, and the sheets to hold the film that I have hold 6 images, basically 6 35mm frames, and you have to cut just perfectly in between the 2 frames, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult to see, and you end up cutting into one of the other images. Ask me how I know. But that means that depending on how you load the film, you may get a couple of extra shots, and it's always interesting trying to organize these ones that just have a few images. But we have some very interesting images that I know are going to look very good once I have the time to finally just sit down and get everything into the computer. So let's see. Next up. Oh, I already know what roll this is. This was a good one, actually, and the only roll of film that has not been shot with my Nikon F3. This was from a point-and-shoot film camera that I picked up maybe about 6 months ago. And sometimes it's nice just having a camera that you don't care too much about and can pocket and not always be taking your best stuff out with you. But this was a trip that I took with my friends, who you can see all throughout this roll. And we went to a place in the city called Barcade, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is the only thing better than an arcade. Is a bar with an arcade. But jokes aside, they have a lot of great old arcade machines, including one of my favorites, which is featured prominently, Daytona, USA. And my girlfriend and I went head to head in it. In the first race, she did kind of kick my butt, but I rebounded and won the second one. So we'll have to do a rematch very soon. But I'm very anxious to see how these came out, because this film itself is also not very light sensitive for indoor shooting. So probably the most annoying thing of which we could possibly do was me using the flash with this. But I hope it was worth it. So these are some of my friends, and that's the 4 of us. And just some fun images. My girlfriend here, me there looking very serious. You know, when it comes to video games, it's go time, and you put on your game face. And we went to a restaurant after, and here are just some fun ones of us. And when the rest of my friends were playing some games, I just had the camera with me, and I was like, over the shoulder, just doing that. I'm sure the flash coming when they did not expect it was just not off-putting at all. So some of these images here, like this last row, I was just kind of testing the camera out. When you get a new camera, you're not always sure if it works, so you just load it up with a cheap roll of film and see what happens. And I'm very, very thankful to say that this roll came out, because I can tell that I think these are going to be some of my favorite images from our trip. And I don't know exactly what it is, but when it comes to like your good friends, like you almost never have any photos together. So these ones I think are going to be good enough to make our group chat. And I think this one looks like just kind of a candid on the streets, looking up at the Empire State Building. So we passed landmarks a couple of different times depending on what they were, like the Empire State Building. Just in the area of the city we were in, you would see it from time to time. So you're just like, shooting it, and you're like, oh, this is an interesting angle that I haven't explored, and you're sort of getting lost in the artistic nature of it all. But let's see. I think that worked a lot better. I'm trying to gather everything up. So next, I think we're a little bit halfway over the amount of rolls that I have. And this roll is my favorite of the bunch. I think that goes that way. But this was from going to see the Statue of Liberty, which I've said now maybe about the half-dozenth time. I live in New York, and I have never been to the Statue of Liberty. I was, however, scheduled to go for a school trip, but the year was 2001, and unfortunately, I think you guys know the reason why it was canceled. But let me draw your attention to one image in particular. This one right here, which is probably the coolest I've ever looked in my life. Just something about the Statue of Liberty crown mixed with the sunglasses and like the windbreaker. I was joking with my girlfriend while we were on the ferry. I was like, just with that look, I was like, I'm in my cool guy face. So, the day that we went, it was very overcast, windy, and cold. But I think something about going on a day like that, it really makes the Statue of Liberty pop. because like everything is kind of dreary, and then you can't really see the water well, the views are kind of gone, and then bam, like the Statue of Liberty is right in front of you. It's just so majestic. But we have a couple of her like right here, right here, right here. Just like, stop taking photos of me. Some here were a little bit more posed. But on the ferry over there, they did sell the Statue of Liberty crowns, and I was like, if we're gonna do this, we gotta do it right. So I bought 2 of them for us, and we were walking around, and it looked so ridiculous, but in the best ways possible. So here, guys, honestly, I think this is the best roll of film I've ever shot in my life. And if I never shoot a better roll of film again, I think it'll be worth it. But just having like almost as a prop the statue in the background, and just like, I don't know, sometimes you just take a photo and you're like, everything here works. Like the layering of these, just different amounts of like light, shadow, and the different relationship of the foreground to the background. And like here you can see just how different it is from when you have someone in the foreground versus the pedestal, and then compared to a person and the statue with just a blank sky, and not even a blue sky. Just gives such a unique and great quality to everything. And to have some from the ferry, to have some from the views over there, it's just, I mean, I keep saying this, but it was such a fun day. Even if it rained, sometimes it's really about the story of the day. So let's see next up. This is from the same day that I went to see the Statue of Liberty, because also on that tour you can take the ferry over to Ellis Island. So we definitely did that, and I'm sure, like myself, many of you also have family members who came over to the United States through Ellis Island. And I always say this about when it comes to things like history, but when you're in a space where something of historical significance happened, and you're just like, especially when they display images from the past in the space where it was, it just has so much of a more powerful feeling to it. And you can point to it, be like, that image happened right in front of me, and I just think that there's something so cool about that. So we have a couple images from the ferry over there. You know, me taking candid photos when other people weren't exactly expecting them. Some images here of us together. I always take a few just because it's very difficult to take selfies on film, especially when the lens that I have is manual focus. So I'm like holding it like this in front of us and being like, how close are we to the lens? Like, you know, when you're adjusting it, it's got a scale on it. You're like, are we like 1.5 feet away? Or are we like 1.1 feet away? So hopefully those come out in focus. I always do have a problem with calculating the distance, because my arm's like, you know, just the little differences. So hopefully that didn't come out too soft. And my girlfriend was also working So I have some of these just from the cafes that we would go to while she had to be available. And that's really the benefit of remote work, is being able to just be somewhere cool and also being able to actually do what you need to. So while we were at the Statue of Liberty too, and Ellis Island, luckily we brought umbrellas with us. We learned our lesson on one of the cruises around the city that we took, where we just got absolutely drenched. But I think I have the images from that as well on one of the next rolls. But guys, if you have not taken the tour of the Statue of Liberty, of Ellis Island, you gotta do it like as soon as you can. It's so worth it. So this is the second to last roll of film that we're going to be looking at. And this one is pretty badly curled, unfortunately. And it was also my first time shooting this film. This is Cinestill 400D. So I'm very curious to see how this came out. I've watched a number of YouTube videos on it, and it's always seemingly had good results for everyone else, so I'm hoping that I will be blessed as well. But this roll is kind of all over the place in the best of ways. So these are some of us together, and me setting the camera up on a tripod and going for these very specific images. And the self-timer on my camera is like 10 seconds, and maybe it was with me sprinting over, like, took up maybe 6 or 7. So to, like, you know, click the shutter, run, get posed. I think we did an okay job, but we shall see. Either way, if I didn't quite make it over, those are kind of fun in themselves. So, just some images of us at different locations. Wow, I was going to say this is so varied, but my girlfriend at my parents' house, her just in the backyard, and this is from a building that we actually went to see, which I have been wanting to forever. The old TWA terminal by Eero Saarinen, which I built it up so much in my head. You would think it would be like destined for failure, but it did not disappoint. So we went to go see it at a time not a lot of people were there, and it was just majestic. It's like one of those mid-century modern gems. If you guys haven't seen the building before, definitely look it up. So a couple of ones from the airport, the Pepsi sign here, the TWA terminal, and some from us walking around as well. So I quite like these images where they show like an environment to them, even if it's just an airport or even if it's just a building. So guys, without further ado, let us take a look at the last roll of film. And it looks like this might be the second roll I have from the Empire State Building. Some of these do overlap just because you'll shoot maybe a roll and a half of film somewhere and like another half roll at another attraction, and they have a way of overlapping. But here's some of me taking a photo. Here's some of my girlfriend looking out the window. That's at the Empire State Building before you get to the observation deck. And there's me in front of the same window. But you get such views of the city. And there's something about going up there where you're just like, I can't believe, like, how vast it is, how expansive the landscape of the city is, but just how much coordination had to come together to just build it all. And it's not even like all the stuff above the ground. You have to think about like the subway and just like, it's just wild to me when you start thinking about all that stuff. But all of these, we just could not get enough of the views about the window. And so I think that's what most of the roll is. But we did get some candids from the observation deck. And just a couple of posed ones as well. And I had a little bit of fun shooting some up close ones you can see here, some here, and then one here, kind of a reflection when you're looking through the glass of, I'm not exactly sure what to call it, but you know how at attractions they have like those big pair of binoculars. I think there's a better word for them. And then with this guy, just a couple of images just of the window views. So guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I am so anxious to get these scanned and to actually see what they'll look like with color. Perhaps I'll do another video for anyone who's curious, just from my absolute like favorite images from this trip, and when they actually look like, you know, normal colors, I'll say. Guys, that is going to do it for this video, and as always, I will see you again in another one very soon.